DNA is not designed for it. And let me put it this way. When I wrote this book, I wrote to some of the top scientists in the world. And one of them was Stephen Hawking, that you might have heard of. Because one of the premises on which I wrote the book was that there has been no significant change in human DNA since the beginning of agriculture. That started 11,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, what is now Iran and other desert countries. That's where agriculture started. And before that, there were no dairy products. There were no cereals. There was hardly any saturated fat. There was no trans fats. There were, the meats were entirely different from what they are now. We lived in a different way, and that's what our DNA is based on. And Stephen, I was a bit worried about my own assumption, and Stephen Hawking wrote back to me, and he said, look on page 165 of The Universe in a Nutshell. I looked on it and it said there has been no significant change in human DNA in the last 10,000 years. So that means that everything we developed, which wasn't there 10,000 years ago, is likely to be at odds with our DNA. Everything. And that includes the stage I'm standing on, these clothes I'm wearing, all the food we eat. So we have very much reason to be scared of what we've done. We have destroyed a lot of the water. They're the only place, when I go around, I take a water measurement device. It measures the amount of substances dissolved in the water, including some of the worst poisons, which is mercury and lead and toluene and PCBs, and I haven't found any clean water. Any clean water, despite what people may say, oh, it's lovely it's okay to drink the water from X and Y. That's because they put it through a cotton filter and it doesn't taste chlorine anymore. But it's still got an awful lot of stuff in it. Now the water in Australia is actually a bit cleaner than some of the others that I've found. The cleanest I've ever found is Christchurch, New Zealand. But it's not clean water. So we have to face that. You are 2/3 water. 2/3 of you is water. So if that's dirty water, 2/3 of you is dirty. 2/3 of your brain is dirty. In fact, 3/4 of your brain. Because your brain is actually about 80% water. We're very squishy up there. And then we also put enormous amounts of pollutants into the air. And we put pesticides in the field that never existed. Our DNA doesn't even recognize, doesn't put up any defense against them. The one that you all know about is carbon monoxide, produced by the worst pollutant in Australia, the family car. Look it up in your own statistic. The family car is the worst pollutant in Australia. Now, carbon monoxide, you know, is a popular way to commit suicide, because you can sit in the car with a tube from the exhaust and you will just fall asleep and die, because your body doesn't mount any defense against it. In fact, it recognizes carbon monoxide as hemoglobin, so it absorbs it into the bloodstream beautifully, because it was never there before we invented cars and other machines that produce it. So we've got all this imposing on this wonderful, this magnificent DNA code that we own. And we've got it in the wallboards and in the ceiling and in the floors and everywhere. These chemicals that our DNA doesn't react well to. So we have to demand, if you want a long and healthy life. Now, I've been doing this now I've been actually doing this for more than 50 years. 50 years I've been studying this. And it gets worse. In 1970, the EPA was formed, the Environmental Protection Agency was formed in the United States in 1970. And it's got worse since then. They were formed to clean up the environment. After the Love Canal incident. How many people remember the Love Canal thing? Anybody? Wow, only a few. I must be getting old. A lot of cancer occurred because of chemicals that were in Love Canal, and they formed the EPA based on that. That was the political push to form it, and it was supposed to clean the environment. Well, here's the report from the American Lung Association, State of the Air Report, April 2011. April 2011. This was from the EPA's own data. 154 million Americans are now living in toxic air. Half the population now living in toxic air. It's not that bad in Australia yet, but it could get that way. But I'm giving you the illustration because it goes right from the polluting source into your home and into the big sponges of your lungs. The sponges of your lungs will just accept all the stuff and then distribute it around your body, and it will get stuck in lots of places, including your heart, your liver, your kidneys, and your brain. So we have a task ahead. If you're going to be bold enough, like Jim and Kathy, and said we are going to develop the biggest health and wellness company in the world, that's a task. That's a real task. Now I have to tell you that I worked for other companies. I designed all the products for USANA when it started. And then I went and worked for Big Pharma. And it was very unsatisfying because what they were doing was only little piecemeal bits of what you should be doing. You need a complete system. And the first thing you have to do is develop some sort of effective system of getting the pollutants out. Now, I have a system that I use with athletes. They have to come to my place, and for a week they go on this very rigorous system to get pollutants out of their bodies. And I realized after a few years of doing this, and people coming back time and again, and the levels of pollutants being the same or higher in their bodies the second time around, I thought, wow, my scientists are a fool. The pollutants are going into your body every day, and the only way to get them out is to get them out every day. And so I looked around for a system, and finally I got persuaded by Warren Lance to go and talk to Jim and Kathy Cooper. And I did, and I examined the system, I took the products away, I tested them, and I was very pleased with the results, and so here I am. This is what we're facing in our food. This is our food. Believe me, going down George Street, this is no exaggeration. I saw all the way down George Street. It's amazing, amazing. It's no wonder that obesity continues to climb. It's no wonder that 2/3 of Australians are now overweight. Because our culture imposes on us what is good for business, what's good for business. And we fall into the trap. I mean, 1 in 4 children in Australia are overweight. And we all know that overweight is related to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease. So we have to tackle it. And you've got to have a system that doesn't work for 30 days or 60 days, or is the 90-minute miracle diet. because it's going to come back at you again and again and again. What you've got to adopt is a healthy lifestyle. And the healthy lifestyle that you adopt has actually got to be doable. It's got to be like, I'm not going to face this lemon juice and hot water diet for more than a week. Believe me, you're not. But you've got to have something that you can take every day, use every day, and feel good about it. Feel that it's actually doing you good and you're maintaining energy. I'm telling you, you don't do that in the lemon juice diet. And it's got to buffer the stress. Our immune system is really overtaxed by what we face every day. Just what we face in this hotel.